At this point, you probably already know that this is the most popular TV series this year. For us, unfortunately, this is probably the most overrated TV series this year. The premise is simple. It gathers 456 contestants on the edge of financial ruin together for a battle royale-like challenge. The last to make it out gets the prize of approximately $38 million. This concept is obviously nothing new, as there are many movies with this exact concept before, but that doesn't mean there isn't potential. The problem is that this thin premise is mercilessly drawn out over 9 interminable episodes and moving like a slug. The creators seem entirely uninterested in any sort of style or polish or subtlety that might justify the show's length. It's slow, mostly padding, and delivered no meaningful surprises. It's also a pretentious nonsense about being an allegory of 21st century capitalism. The series actually starts quite decent, especially since it's using very popular premise of a deadly challenge, which if done right could become something beautiful with huge social message. Unfortunately, it falters and goes stale rather quickly. It stumbles halfway through and getting worse by each episode. There are no characters worth investing in, as all the characters are as cookie-cutter as they get. There is absolutely nothing fresh about any of these characters, who are built on the backs of archetypes and tropes without any further development or nuanced execution. The direction robs the game sequences of any tension and keeps the characters from developing beyond cardboard-thin cliches. There's no drama to draw you in, and no suspense, fear, dread, or shock. The series spends too much of its time on the games and the murder of it all. The bluntness of the violence is completely meaningless. It amplifies itself endlessly, raising the stakes and the level of inhumanity. Violence is depicted flatly, and the embellishment comes from the fussy trappings around death and gore. Murder is fetishized as a way to raise the stakes in a hazily political conversation without proposing a solution. The problem that comes with the serious storytelling is that it's never ever subtle. It's overkill to a fault. Even the twist is totally pointless and completely awful. It felt like a betrayal and a gotcha moment that didn't ever need to happen. About halfway through the series, after a whole lot of killing and blood, we suddenly get hit with a pseudo-philosophical bullshit about how the games are based on equality, where everyone gets a fair go and there's no discrimination of any sort. The fact is that players bend the rules and have the rules bent on them as well. Never mind terrorized and murdered by other players and are subject to summary execution by guards, even if they complete tasks exactly as instructed. There's nothing innovative or new about the violence, basic story, or direction style of this series. The message is clear that the rich abuse the poor. We already knew this, it just isn't interesting. Especially when we find out what the reason for the existence of this sadistic game is, the paradox becomes inevitable. If it's nothing more than the immoral entertainment of a group of billionaires who follow the transmission of the game from their homes and who, in addition, bet millions of dollars on the triumph of their favorite, is it not the serious audience, which means each one of us is also another sadist who enjoys the suffering of others, even if it's fictitious? There is of course an obvious difference between spectatorship of real world and fictional violence, but it might be easier to see that distinction if the pile of bodies had been slaughtered in service of an idea more interesting than that inequality is bad. This series lacks sufficient lucidity to suggest that we are in a real dead end. In the end, the experience of sitting through every minute of the whole thing proved to be a resoundingly hollow experience. Overall, this series becomes sensation probably because most people stay at home during pandemic. We need time killer, and this series should work just fine as time killer. Just put your expectation low.